What's up, guys? T-Box here, and welcome to a different video. I wanted to do kind of a review, I guess, or just share my thoughts on the new Edge of Fate campaign DLC that brought out in Destiny 2. I like Destiny 2. I haven't done these before. I think I've done one review just like years ago. But I don't do these too often because I just do the gameplay. I don't care enough to like put out reviews because I don't do in-depth thoughts. So this isn't going to be super in-depth and analytical. And at the time of this recording, Edge of Fate's been out for just over a month by now, so there's probably been most definitely been a lot of reviews out by then, and you've probably seen most of them. And if you haven't, you just probably don't care at all. But I'm gonna do it like how I do my entire channel, just mainly because I want to. I haven't done the Mythic campaign, or I don't care about the power grind, so I'm not going to spend too much talking about those ones. We'll see as I get further in. This is kind of just bringing my thoughts out. I do have somewhat of a rough draft that it's just more points for me to talk about, but you know, there's going to be spoilers, obviously, because I'm going to be talking about the campaign and the raid itself. But there will be timestamps, so if you don't want spoilers for the campaign or raid, you could just skip past it to the point where I talk about the portal and stuff. But there are timestamps that you can pick and choose where you want to watch in the video. Without further ado, let's get into it. Basically, Edge of Fate is the newest Destiny 2 expansion, and it marks the beginning of the Fate saga. It focuses around the Nine, which are these interdimensional beings that we don't see too much of them. We do sometimes, like Season of the Drifter, with the Reckoning and Trials of the Nine, Ride of the Nine, the event that was just out right before the Edge of Fate released, and the Prophecy Dungeon. They come out every now and again to show up. Xur is part of the Nine, so the guy that sells us exotics. But other than that, we don't really do or see too much with the Nine, and that's what this Fate saga is all about. And the Edge of Fate is the beginning of it and setting it up. But basically, our guardian Ikora gets an invitation from the Nine and tells us to go to this planet called Kepler, where we also meet Lodi. And honestly, he's a pretty interesting character. I like him. He's from the past. He's from like the 60s, I want to say. It looked like the 60s or 70s in that one cutscene. He gets a call and then gets blasted through time. And it's him basically trying to figure out, what happened during the collapse and all those conversations when he's trying to ask Ikora about what happened during the collapse and how there's no freaking, records of anything. And he's freaking out. Honestly, I like that. The campaign focuses heavily on puzzles. It is just... It's just puzzles. And you know what those puzzles are? Ball. The Matter Spark. It is everywhere, and quite frankly, I got annoyed with it very quickly. It's not terrible, but it felt like we were going into Matter Spark every 5 minutes. And the campaign is really long, like 14 missions. So going through on all 3 characters, that was fun. But I got used to it by the 3rd one. Another part of the story is focusing with Ikora, because apparently we learn that the 9 set her death up. She got hit by a train. So that way she gets rezzed by her ghost and then gets the invitation, and basically it's all just set up so we go to that specific point for the 9. And honestly, we'll have to learn more about that as the story progresses and we get further into the Fate Saga. I'm not too big of the fan of where it's like, oh, technically everything we've done was set up for us to do. Because that kind of defeats the whole point of, the phrase that was set up in the Vault of Glass back in Destiny 1, where Guardians make their own fate. And maybe we didn't. Maybe we learned that we actually do control our own fate. We'll just have to progress further into the Fate Saga. And find out then. There are 2 enemy factions, the Fallen and Vex. For the Fallen, it's the House of Exile, where it's this crazy Archon priest, or just the Archon, I think his name is. He is insane, like, just genuinely insane. And his whole goal is sending them through a black hole so they can ascend. It's hard I can't really wrap my head around that part because I thought he was a little comical, but I did really like the villain, because he's fun to deal with. And I like the look of the Fallen, or the House of Exile, I should say, specifically. And Maya Sundaresh is also there from episode Echoes, where, honestly, her setup as a villain in Echoes was not very good, so I didn't really care too much, but this expansion really does her justice, and her whole goal is just bringing the Golden Age back, her own Golden Age, using the Echo and one of the power of the 9, trying to get her own Golden Age back. And I like the Vex as a faction. I know not many people do, but I do. I love the Vex, so I was fine with it. I think they look cool. I like the look of the Coral Vex because it reminds me of when we fought the Panoptes, and just like the past Vex, if that makes sense. But it was a lot of fun. The campaign, like I said, is super long and gimmicky. But the destination is coming off of the final shape in the Pale Heart. It's not the greatest. It's kind of boring. I like the weird dark matter infested stuff because it reminds me a lot of the Flood from Halo, so that's really just the only part I like about it, and why I like the House of Exile look as well. But speaking of the... Sorry, I just lost my train of thought there. But speaking of the destination, they did it where it's just you on the destination, unless you load into the 3-person activity called the Sieve. Just like the Pale Heart. I thought it was fine for the Pale Heart because it made sense for the story. That it was kind of just us there. and we were trying to fight to get to the witness. It was just us or our fire team. But they did it again with Kepler, and I cannot for the life of me just think of a reason why they thought that would be a good idea, because that also really hurts the destination, and it just feels empty, that there's not much to do. Yeah, there's the sieve, that 3-person activity, but other than that, like, they could have just made it a public event, or I don't know. A public event. I mean, we could see other players. Like, honestly, this expansion has felt a little empty. Like, there's no players. You spend most of your time alone or with your fire team. And Matter Spark also kind of replaces fragments and possible aspects we could have gotten, which honestly, I don't know how true that would have been. I don't know if we would have gotten it either way. Like, let's be honest, we probably weren't. But other than that, like, I thought the Edge of Fate campaign was nice. The story, I thought it did a good job setting up the Fate Saga, because at first I didn't care. I was like sorta checked out after the final shape, because I was like, oh, the story is done to me. I spent 10 years with one story. I don't want to spend another 10 years, but I was intrigued to see how this one would play out. And honestly, I'm a little interested. Definitely can't wait for Renegades, but that's a few months in the future. And then Ash and Iron, which is the update, free update, mind you, that comes out in a few weeks at the time of this recording. That's supposed to continue the story and lead us into Renegades, I think. Either that or it's just a continuation of Edge of Fate, but I don't see why it wouldn't lead us in. But that's enough about the campaign. The raid. I can't speak for contest. I didn't participate in it. I had no interest in participating in contest, especially after Salvation's Edge, and I was like, alright, but seeing it was insane. The fact that the bosses were so spongy, that's essentially what the raid is. It is just, it's a Vex raid, and it's essentially just a boss rush, just DPS checks after DPS checks. It's not very mechanically heavy. I've done the raid on normal a couple of times. I haven't gotten any weapons. My RNG is horrible. I have just gotten armor. But I do love that we got another Vex raid. Because once again, I like Vex. I like Vex raids. Unpopular opinion, but I love Garden of Salvation. I think it's pretty fun. Annoying when you're trying to learn it, but once you have it down and you have a good team that actually knows what they're doing, Garden of Salvation is really not that bad, and it's pretty fun. The boss Koragos, I don't know how to say the name. It's a giant, it's like a biblically, I saw a comment, biblically accurate harpy. It is huge, and the design for it is awesome. And the fact that you do DPS on the boss itself, it's not hard. It's pretty easy, but I like the fact that you do the DPS on the thing. He has lasers that go around. It doesn't really fight back like Rolk and Crota, but it does have lasers that can destroy you if you're not really paying attention. I can't speak on the weapons yet, but the crossbow I have seen has done some crazy, like, damage output with the temporal blast mod, which just makes shots explode, I guess. But that crossbow is putting in work, and the fact that you can retrieve it, or retrieve the arrows, is pretty cool, and it's just a new weapon archetype altogether. Can't wait for people to say it's just a reskin of this weapon, but with I don't know. I hate the whole reskin like arguments, but that's neither here nor there. We're at Ash and Iron also will have what Bungie is calling it the Epic Raid, which will add new mechanics, I think they said, and just make it a bit harder. There is stuff in the collections that you can see. It's redacted, so I'm hoping that it adds, like, how it was back at D1, Age of Triumph, where you did the 390 versions of the raids, and it would give you the ornaments. Or if you did the challenges, I think, you got the ornaments of the set of armor and make the armor pieces look cooler. So I'm hoping that it's just different armor. And because they did say they were doing away with adept weapons, so I can't see unless they're just going to add even more weapons, which would be kind of crazy. But I'm intrigued to see what the epic version of the raid is going to look like, and we'll see that once again in the coming weeks. But yeah, other than that, that's all of the campaign and raid thoughts. Personally, I give it a 6 out of 10. The story really helped it, but all the rest, like Matterspark, no fragments or aspects, it kind of sucks. Matterspark being used so heavily in every aspect of the campaign was annoying. The last mission, though, last mission was awesome. I loved the backdrop, like the setting for the final boss when you're fighting the Archon. But yeah, I'm gonna have to give it 6.5 out of 10. But with that being said, that goes into the free. We're gonna go into the free side of what has been added this expansion. A lot of quote-unquote quality of life improvements, and basically just changing up, shaking up how the game is now. And the most prominent thing, and what people are not happy about the most, other than the power grind, but we'll get there eventually, is the portal. That's where everyone has been spending their time grinding, because that's where you have to spend your time grinding. You don't necessarily have to. No, actually, no, you do. I'm sorry. If you want to get a higher power, you can gradually, but there are people grinding this thing out, just going at it. Memes about going in, clocking into the Caldera mines, just solo ops, which are, self-explanatory. They're like mini missions, like mini Lost Sector strike type missions that are designed for solo play. So you don't have to have a fire team, which people have been asking for, but here we are. People aren't happy, but honestly, I could see why people aren't happy. I think the portal it's a good idea, but what Bungie did with the portal is make force us to go to the portal for everything. All activities. They even bring back older activities like Savathûn Spire and some of the Onslaught seasonal activities from Revenant episode. With also the exotic missions. Like Encore, that was nerfed and disabled twice because people were finding ways to get crazy amount of loot and just speeding their grind up fast. It's insane to me that Bungie thought it was a good idea to make the portal the forefront while the Destinations tab, which is now called the World tab, but tomato, where we used to have everything available, where we had to go for every single activity, was desaturated. At this point, they've reverted it. The color is back, but people weren't happy about it. And honestly, I'm not either. I think the portal is a good idea, but the way it's executed is terrible. What they should have done is, for new players, if you're new, redirect them to the portal and be like, hey, if you're having trouble, here's an easier way to get to these activities. Have the Destinations tab, the World tab, still be the forefront where we go to do everything. Everything. Still have that, and the portal is the secondary thing. If you're confused and don't know really where to go, you can have featured stuff, highlight the stuff in the Destinations tab for the day. I don't know. I don't work there. But the Destinations tab should not have been left in the dust. Even Kepler, the brand new destination, isn't on that map. It's just in the portal. That's how you access it if you want to go to that planet for whatever reason. You have to go to the portal, instead of just being able to go to the Destinations tab. That shouldn't have been how it was executed. And I'm hoping they fix it. In the end, I hope they fix it eventually. I hope they change it to where the portal is a secondary thing that's just used for, like, people who are confused or just brand new players to the game. But what they also introduced in these solo Fireteam, Pinnacle, and Crucible ops, or not the Crucible ops, but there's modifiers that you can select and speed up the grind by getting you better loot and increasing your power the more modifiers you put on, or the more difficult modifiers you put on. I think that's cool. I like it. Once again, hope it gets put in the Destinations tab. I don't know how they would be able to do that, but everything that's in the portal should be in the Destinations tab as well. That being said, though, the one thing I hate, the modifier I hate the most, is that stupid Avant Guard modifier, where you have to use the featured exotics or new gear, So you're forced into a certain playstyle, you're forced into a certain loadout, just like how Prestige Leviathan was back when Leviathan was even out, the raid. But you have to use the modifier for the conquests, which is another thing that sucks. You can only do them once. The conquests are part of the new way to get your Conqueror title and gild it and get better gear, and it replaces Grandmaster Nightfalls altogether, which is dookie. It is completely dookie. And the Avant-Garde modifiers on each of the conquests, so it's just not worth it. You can only do the conquest once. You can't grind them. I'm not sure if you can do them on other characters as well, but I think I've heard people say that you can't. So that means you can only do the conquest activity, or like each conquest like mission, once per season. And that's insane to me. Because why? Why aren't they grindable? They should be. Grandmasters were grindable. Why aren't these? But this is just more, I'm just gonna be ranting. The portal's good in concept, but it needs to be improved on and changed heavily. And bring the destinations tab back up to standard, back up to the forefront. Because that's what makes Destiny. It is a unique identity that Destiny has. I like going into destinations, seeing all the planets, going through them. Even if it's confusing or tedious at times, I don't care if you think that. That's the whole point of Destiny. It's its identity. You get to see where you're going. It's cool to look at. So, and it's definitely much better to look at than the ugly portal. But we can't. We just are at the portal all the time. It's just nothing but the portal. But I digress. One thing, the grind. I keep talking about the grind. And that grind is the power grind. We got reset back down to 10 power at the Edge of Fate. And we have the goal to reach 450 power. And then in Ration Iron, it gets pushed up to 550, which is insane. And here's the kicker, though. Every time a new expansion comes out, our power gets reset back down to 200. Now, I like the power system. Hold on. Before you say anything, come at me with your pitchforks. I don't like the fact that we get reset back all the way down to 200. I think 350 should be where we be reset back down to, if anything. But I do like the fact that we're back down to 10, because going up constantly to, like, we would have been at 4,000 power by now, or by Renegades. It's just pointless. It's the same thing. People are complaining, oh my gosh, we're weaker. And while that might I think it's all just psychological, quite frankly, because I see people one-phasing it like crazy, and even I'm just one-phasing raid bosses still. The witness is, we're doing the same amount of damage, it just looks like we're weaker. And the fact that we're back down to 10 should not bother you, because being at 20, 30 power was ugly, okay? And it also made no sense for new players coming up. Oh, I'm starting at 1900 power. Why? Why? But now they start at 10. And we stay that way. We get reset back down anyway. So the fact that people are complaining is insanity to me. We've always gotten reset back down. Now I do think where we get reset back down to is a bit overkill, considering the grind the power is insane, especially once you reach the 300 threshold. It gets slower, and then the 400 to 450 I've heard is absolutely terrible. Now it's time. I'm only at 300 on my characters. And I don't have the drive to get myself to 450, because what that does is really is just getting you higher tier loot, which is the new Gear 3.0 system, Armor 3.0, and Weapons 2.0, or 3.0. Because technically I think crafting would be Weapons 2.0. But it goes up to, there's different tiers. All the way up to tier 5, armor and weapons. Tier 1 weapons are the normal weapons that we've always gotten. Tier 2 enhances the perks, the main perks that you use. And Tier 3 enhances all of them, and I think gives you an extra set of perks. And then Tier 4 and does the same, while also giving you the mods that you can put on, enhances those two, and Tier 5 gives you an even more set of perks. So you get the full 3 on the first and second column, and it gives you a little nice cosmetic for each weapon that all looks the same. It's just blue instead of the normal weapon. But it looks nice, and you can only get tier 5s, I think, past at 400, maybe 450, I don't know, I'm not at that point yet. I do have a tier 5, because Solstice, which was the new, which they, or not new, it's the summer event had come out, and I've been grinding that, and they've been giving you +1 tier gear for everything, so I've been getting tier 3, 4s, and 5s, which is nice, and I thought Solstice was cool. It sucks that they removed the Solstice activity. Granted, people complained about said activity, said it was stupid, so Bungie takes it out, and people then complain that there was no activity. Here we are. But once again, I digress. This isn't about just like community outrage. This is about the game. And then Ash and Iron, like I said, increases the power level to 550, making it, and Bungie said it makes it easier for those to get up to 300 to 450 power as well. So I think the grind to 300 to 400 will probably be equivalent to 200 to 300, if I had to guess. But we'll see. Once again, like, a lot of this is just we will have to see. The tiers in the armor, I still have no idea. I have only ever seen a difference with tier 5s. I'm guessing each tier gives you, like, just more points to the stats. This adds more to the stats. And then tier 5 allows you to pick a trade-off with certain mods and increase the stats in certain levels and decrease it in others. Or just add an extra 3 points to the lowest stats. In my opinion, tier 5 armor is not worth it. And even tier 5 weapons, if you're feeling like, oh my gosh, I have to grind so much to just get these weapons, I will be left behind, they don't matter. The armor definitely does not matter. They need to figure out what they're doing with that, because I do not think the armor tiers are worth it at all. Even the weapon 5 tiers, or tier 5 weapons, they're just pointless. You'll be fine with tier 2 weapons. But if you really want them, you'll be fine with tier 3 and 4. They are just fine. And if you have a tier 5, it's just a little extra nice thing to have. But in my opinion, they're not really all that worth it. Then again, I haven't grinded a bunch of them. We haven't seen the full potential that we can. A lot of this is just a wait and see. But since this is the beginning, There's a lot of problems and a lot of stuff needs to be fixed, but that's just what happens when you start over. This is a brand new era of Destiny, and we'll just have to keep giving actual feedback, good feedback, not just complaining. But other than that, like, yeah, those are my thoughts on the Edge of Fate and the whole update altogether. Hope you enjoyed the video. Sorry, this is a bit of a mess. I'm new to this type of content. I'm probably not going to be doing this a lot. If at all, I might do this again at some point, but I like making just normal gaming videos. But other than that, yeah, hope you enjoyed. If you did, leave a like, subscribe, leave a comment on your thoughts, what you thought about the expansion and the update altogether. And yeah, have a great rest of your day.